Select the numbers that are perfect cubes. So a perfect cube is a number that is created when you take a whole number and multiply by itself 3 times. Perfect example of this is 64, because 64 equals 4 times 4 times 4. So 64 is a perfect cube. So we want to look at the other numbers and see if they follow the same type of pattern. And maybe you know some of them. If you don't, you could try using a calculator to help. So let's take a look at 80. Now, if 80 is a perfect cube, then the cube root of 80 would have to be an integer. So let's take a look. The cube root on this calculator, you hit the math button, and then you see the cube root is option 4. So the cube root, and then you just type in the number 80, then enter. So what this says is roughly 4.3 times itself 3 times will give you 80. Now this cube root of 80 is an irrational number. It's a non-repeating decimal. And definitely not an integer. So we know that 80 is not a perfect cube. So 80 is not a perfect cube. How about 125? You might know this one too. If you don't, you can use a calculator to verify. So I'm going to do the cube root of 125. And so you get 5, which is an integer. That means 5 times 5 times 5 makes 125, and 125 is a perfect cube. How about 434? Cube root of 434 is 7.5 and so on, an irrational number. Definitely not a perfect cube. So let's try 343. That one's 7. So 7 times 7 times 7 makes 343, and 343 is a perfect cube. And 1000, I know that's 10 times 10 times 10. And easy way to tell is you just count the zeros. So I have 3 zeros, means it's 10 times 10 times 10. If it was 100, there'd be 2 zeros, and it'd be 10 times 10. So 1000 is also a perfect cube. So you can see our perfect cubes: 64, 125, 343, and 1000. And if you get these memorized, it sure is a lot easier to work with all types of math problems down the road. So I'd really suggest you do that. But you can always use your calculator as a backup to check if you're not sure. Just calculate the cube root and see if it's an integer.